Welcome to the Post Up. This is your new weekly NBA show from the GoldBoys Sports Network, where three friends will cover everything from the association. With only 3 weeks, fuck me.
You got you a case of the Willies.
Fucking hell. I do. I'm nervous like Dylan. Shit. With only 3 days, Alex, keep that in there, producer Alex. With only 3 days left of the NBA season, we'll cover our playoff picture here, the final play-in games. We're going to be happening soon. And we'll go over our end of season awards, and we'll close this thing out with a quick this or that from Dylan. And then, yes, we will have our second ever Post Up Parlay. Before we get into all that, quick introductions. First off, main man standing at 5'1". Dolan, what's up, dude?
Not much. Just trying to sift through the NBA tonight. And I mean, I can't even describe the monstrosity of a performance I just watched the Orlando Magic have. I can't describe the performance that the Sixers are currently having. And then the tankathon between the Blazers and the Spurs is just a sight to behold. This is a hell of a night to do the show on, because these games are pretty much comedy.
Electric. How are the bets going tonight? Good? Not good?
It's super good so far. We'll see how the night finishes out.
Absolutely love to hear that. I know this is a basketball show, but if you have not been watching the golf, need to get on that.
Please watch
Second up. Oh, yeah. Please watch the Masters. Second up here, main man, resident Boston fan. If you are a Boston fan as well, follow this guy on Twitter at DillBond00, because he needs way more Boston friends, because Dolan and I definitely don't give a shit. Dylan Bond, what's up, dude?
Hello. Michael, go ahead and ask me about how my bets are going tonight.
How are your bets going tonight, Dylan? Dylan is not a gambler, but he decided to get back into it because we started doing this show. Dylan, please tell the people how you started getting back into this the other day by putting up 3 of the worst parlays possible. Go ahead, Dylan.
Well, I don't even remember what they were, but they did not go well. I think I've made 6 bets since I started doing it, and I hit 1, and that one was last night, the Celtics spread against Toronto. Yeah, but I've got Portland money line tonight, so let's go.
That all changes tonight on the second ever Post Up Parlay. My name is Michael Willis. I am your resident Detroit fan, I guess. Life's not too great right now, but we're probably going to get the number 1 overall pick, possibly going to get Victor Wembanyama. Definitely not. None of that's going to happen because we're Detroit. Probably going to end up with the 5th pick, and then all of this is for absolutely nothing. That does not matter, though, boys. Let's talk about this Eastern Conference Finals or Eastern Conference Playoffs.
Hell yeah, by all means.
Okay.
Before we get into the Eastern Conference playoffs and seedings and everything like that, we kind of wanted to do a quick run through on the plan. I believe this is year 2, boys, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Of the plan? Yeah, okay. So if you're not familiar, I actually really like this change. I didn't really like it at the time when they proposed it. I think it makes for a really, really interesting 3 days of NBA. Basically, the gist is the 7th and 8th place teams in the East and West play. The winner of that game gets the 7th seed. The 9th and 10th place teams, they play. The loser goes home. Your entire season is done in the course of one game. The winner of that game plays the loser of the 7-8. And then whoever wins that game gets the 8th seed and finalizes the playoff standings and seeding. So this will all take place April 11th through the 14th next week, which I believe is Tuesday through perhaps Friday. And then the actual playoffs start on April 15th, the following day. So next week should be really, really fun. Plans, I think, a really good idea. I think it's a really nice change for the NBA, and I welcome it. It should be really fun to watch. It should be really fun to bet on if you're a bettor like myself. So very excited to see how this unfolds.
This is the 3rd year. Correction.
Yeah, 3rd year.
Is that
I was
right?
going to say it's 3rd year. Yeah.
We'll get better at it. It started in 2019, 2020. Dylan, what have been your thoughts on the play-in tournament so far?
I mean, I've always been a big fan of it. I've heard a lot of people complain about it, but most of the people that have complained are the people that are the 8th seed or 7th seed and then end up losing and not making it. But I think that when you have high stakes games like that, win or go home, it's just super entertaining, and you can't not enjoy that, the high stakes.
Absolutely.
It makes the game a whole lot better. I think it started. I remember the narrative. It started because LeBron was like the ninth seed. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to get LeBron in the playoffs with the Lakers. I think that was how this whole. I can't remember that. I feel like that's correct. But playing is playing's fucking electric. I can't wait for this, especially out in the West. This should be it's pretty much the play in right now for the West.
Yeah, pretty much. This shit is really, really close. Anything can happen in this last little bit.
You ain't kidding. Before we go into the West, let's talk about the East, though. Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia, Cleveland, and the Knicks, right? Those 5 teams are pretty much set in their spots, don't we think?
Yeah, they are.
Cleveland and Knicks are guaranteed to play each other. So we know that'll be a first round series, and I don't know if anything else can be shaken up. Maybe Philly can catch
No, they can't. It's
Boston.
clinched. Boston clinched
No,
second.
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm sitting here standing. You're right. So yeah, the top 5.
Top 5 are
seem to be
done,
pretty
yeah.
damn-
So yeah, we're really looking at the next team in the Nets or the Heat is really what we're looking at here. Nets have the Magic and the 76ers to close out their season, and the Heat have the 76ers, Wizards, and Orlando. They are currently stomping the shit out of Philadelphia, 114-83. Dolan, how many points does Embiid have?
I don't know because we got onto the show. He had 19,
That's
21.
awesome.
He has 21 points.
That's awesome. That
And
under
soon done for the night.
at under a 33 and a half is looking absolutely fucking beautiful, man. Actually, it was 31 and a half. That's fucking gorgeous. Love that, dude.
Love that.
That's what do we think about dude, is with those games coming up, we're watching how the Heat are killing the 76ers right now. They have the Wizards in Orlando next. The Nets have the Magic and the 70s. Are the Nets winning right now?
Nets aren't playing.
Nets aren't playing, yeah.
Who's Orlando playing right now?
Orlando lost to Cleveland.
Yeah,
That's right.
They benched their entire team and lost.
That's right. So the Nets have the Magic and the 76ers. So out of those 2 teams, Heat with the Wizards in Orlando, and then the Nets with Magic and the 76ers. Too much Orlando in there. I'm getting too confused. Who do we think is coming out? I think the Nets. The Nets only need 1 game.
Yeah,
they win the next game. They've clinched 6th spot. I think the Nets are going to get it against a Magic team that is not very good and has absolutely nothing to play for. What do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, they just officially punted tonight. They, I guess we'll call it rested. I don't know what else you want to call it. But they went down Fultz, Harris, Wagner, Banchero, Carter. So their entire starting 5 unit was all rested or made up injuries, whatever you want to call it. So they full out punted tonight. They wanted to give experience to their young guys, which there's not that many notable players, but they had a guy named Scrub who played. That's how bad it is over there in Orlando.
That's a classic dad. That's an actual person, but it's a classic opening for a dad joke from Dolan. If you don't know, Dolan is the absolute king of dad jokes. Dylan's getting there. Dylan, what do you think? You think Nets keep it where it's at, or you think Miami catches them?
I think Miami's like getting good at the right time. I just think there's too much space for them to catch it. I think it's pretty much set that Brooklyn's going to be, and good on them. Everyone thought they were going to fall out and definitely be in at least the play-in after the trade they made. But they had the right people step up and get some wins. But I think definitely Brooklyn stays the 6th seed.
Yeah, I like I said, I like it where it's at. Nets and the Heat staying at 6 and 7. I don't think the Heat are in danger of getting caught by Atlanta. I think that 8, 9, 10 could shake up a bit. Let's talk about that real quick. Atlanta has, again, Philly plays a lot of these teams. Atlanta has the 76ers and then Boston. That at home to the Sixers and then at Boston. That is a rough 2 games for Atlanta to go into the play-in. Maybe, because I don't know, Dylan, I'll get your take in a second. Is Boston going to sit people on that? Toronto are at Boston and then play Milwaukee. That's an even, again, if these guys sit, that could be a really bad one. And then Chicago has at Dallas and then at home to Detroit, who don't give a fuck anymore. So let's start with Atlanta real quick. 76ers and Boston, your 2 teams. Any chance we got a rematch? No Ben Simmons this time, Dolan, but Atlanta and 76ers.
I think when we sit and stare at that game, perhaps this would be an opportunity for Doc to throw all of our guys on the bench and just let the Furkan Korkmazes and the Paul Reeds of the world get their run. Let Joel get some fucking rest for once. Let Harden get his rest. So I don't know. If anything, I almost feel like the Hawks are in a decent position because they play two teams that don't care, which I'm sure is the case for several of these guys. But um, they could reasonably see a rested Sixers team followed by a rested Boston team here. So they might be in pretty good position.
Dylan, what do you think about Atlanta taking on the 76ers and rolling over to Beantown?
Yeah, I mean that's what I would say. The Celtics are definitely going to rest people against. They play Toronto tomorrow, and they play on Sunday against Atlanta, and they're going to sit people one of those two games. I don't know which one. The Celtics are in a weird spot because they obviously will play the winner of the play-in. So like if depending how it looks, who they sit and who they not, it could determine who is in the play-in. So they can. I mean, still they would have to obviously beat Miami, but I think the Celtics would definitely sit somebody. I think Atlanta is going to end up keeping it because I think the Celtics will play their starters tomorrow, at least some of their starters tomorrow, and win, and then they'll rest in Atlanta. That's my thought, or against Atlanta.
Chicago's stuck there at 10. They can't, no matter what they could. If Atlanta and Toronto lose all their games and Chicago wins both of theirs, they still can't catch. There's nothing that Chicago can do there. The only thing they'll do is switch with 9. They'll play Toronto. That's it. That's the only thing that Chicago can really do. And this will be an interesting one at the end, man. I think we're going to see a lot of what we're seeing right now in the East. We said it last week. If you didn't listen, go back and listen to that. But we talked about how this Eastern Conference is pretty much set where it's at. I don't feel like there's going to be a whole lot of big, ridiculous changes here in the next 2 games, or remaining 2 games for these teams. You would say Chicago has the easiest run. Just actually, no, you wouldn't. Dallas is going to be wanting to get that win, so Chicago's going to most likely to be going up against a Dallas team that gives a shit. Atlanta and Toronto, like you two just said, they're playing the 76ers, Boston, and Milwaukee. Like these are the 3 teams at the top that don't need this game at all. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think you'll get 2 wins out of Atlanta and Toronto. They'll stay where they're at. Then Chicago will lose 1 to Dallas, and then probably beat Detroit, who do not want to win a game at all. Even though
they don't.
No, they don't. Even though we've locked up the worst record in the league, they do not want to win a game at all.
Congrats on that, by the way. That's a huge
I didn't even
feat.
know that.
I hope you're proud of your guys.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. That's pretty sweet. I'm about tired of it.
That's awesome.
I'm about tired of it. You talked earlier, Dolan, about this Orlando team sitting everybody. This is 100% your fault. Look what your scum organization has done. I hate this. I hate this so much. Can't stand it. I can't stand it.
Sure. Blame the Sixers, even though it's been happening for decades.
Nope, it's the Sixers' fault.
Here we go. That's right. That's right. All right. So we've got the East pretty much set right now. The big question I feel, and you guys can come at me if I'm wrong on this, does this Eastern Conference play-in actually matter? The Heat, Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago, do any of these teams pose a legit threat? I know everybody's probably going to say, look what the Heat just did tonight to the 76ers. Yeah. There's nothing really. Did the 76ers have anything to play for tonight?
I don't believe so.
No, they don't.
Exactly. I don't think
they're stuck at 3.
Yeah.
Does the Eastern Conference play-in actually matter? I mean, the games matter, yes, but do the results matter? Do any of these 4 teams pose any genuine threat to anybody at the top in the Eastern Conference?
Not necessarily. You already answered the question to a certain extent. The Heat would be the biggest threat. Jimmy Butler in the playoffs can be kind of a freaky man. Although, if you look through his career, he's never really had postseason wins, but he's still a dangerous person to see in the postseason. I think that the second scariest team, I guess you could say, would be the Raptors. The Hawks just don't play any defense, man. I'm not sure. Trey would kind of have to carry them. The DeJounte Murray, Trey Young duo has always been kind of funky to me. So, but they're giving up 117 a game. It's hard to win in the playoffs when you try and outscore everybody. So I don't have too much faith in the Hawks, but I do have a little tiny bit of, I guess I'll call it wonder in the Raptors. I don't necessarily have faith in them, but they have talent there. They have legit, they're 6 deep of pretty damn good players, and they're 8 deep of a playoff rotation. And this team could possibly make noise. I think the Jakob Poeltl trade was nice. That'll at least help a little bit. That way they don't have to start Pascal Siakam against Embiid or Brook Lopez / Giannis, or Celtics go kind of 5 out anyway. So that would actually be a really intriguing matchup to see Toronto versus Celtics. So I kind of hope we do see that at some point. But Toronto is legit talent.
You can watch it tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go. Toronto has legit talent. Some of these guys have won before, so which I don't want to talk about that actually. Fuck that. Why hit that game winner against the Sixers.
There
Uh,
we go.
yeah, but I think they are interesting. I'll say I don't think they'll lay down and die by any means. I think they could give a team a little bit of a scare in the first round, and I don't really feel that same way about the Hawks. And Michael, you mentioned it last episode that the Bulls, more power to them. They made this 10 seed. They're in the postseason. There's no team in the league. I think I wouldn't want to be worse. I don't know exactly how to say that, but there's no team in the league that I would be like more devastated to be a fan of than Chicago. They are in absolute purgatory with these contracts, and there's no young talent. There's just nothing, man. And
Don't
DeMar
worry.
DeRozan is
Everybody
kind
agrees.
yeah. I don't need to sell too many people, probably not even Chicago fans. So I don't see the Bulls as too much of a threat, although I do have to pay some respects to their defense in the second half of the season. Has been really good. But Toronto and Miami can make things interesting, I think, is the extent that I'll take that.
Toronto with a possible defensive player of the year on their team. We'll get to that in a little bit. Stay tuned for that. Dylan, thoughts on these 4 teams in the Eastern? Do you think any one of them pose a real threat? And how do you feel about, because right now it's Miami and Atlanta in that playing in. I believe that's going to stay that way. I believe Miami get that dub fairly easily. So how do you feel about playing Miami in that first round possibly?
So I don't want to play Miami. Like I said, I think that whoever the Celtics end up playing, I think they'll end up advancing regardless who it is. But Miami's going to make it a harder series. Atlanta's been hot. Like they've been playing. They finally starting to seem like the mesh a little bit. And I do think that Trae Young is capable of winning a game with his. I mean, you saw him against the Knicks 2 years ago. I mean, Ice Trae. So I think that either one of them could make it an entertaining series, but I think the harder series would definitely end up being Miami. And then I kind of agree with the Toronto thing, but one thing I saw about Toronto last night is the only person on Toronto against the Celtics last night with a positive plus minus was Jacob Pertl, and they rested him towards the end. So I don't know what Nick Nurse is doing. It seems like he's on his way out, if anything, but it's a different conversation. I mean, Fred VanVleet was 1 for 12 from 3 yesterday. So atrocious. Shout out Nate.
He's one of those guys that I cannot for whatever reason, betting wise, I can't catch that guy on a good night. VanVleet. I think it's one of your better guys, Dolan. Am I wrong on that?
He's been pretty good to me, mostly earlier in the season, but I haven't touched him as much recently.
Yeah, back to Dylan's Miami and Atlanta thing. Atlanta has been getting hot a little here lately. What do you think about? I mean, Trae Young's game, Dylan. You think? I mean, that's tailor made for the playoffs. He's not really built for the regular season, is he?
I'd say. I mean, he's had some good years. I mean, if you look at his shooting percentage, it's not great. I think it's right around league average. But he just seems to hit big shots, and obviously the biggest platform in the NBA is in the playoffs. So, and he likes that stage. But I do think that like going to the 9-10 matchup, I don't think Chicago's going to do anything, even though like if you look at their starting lineup, it's pretty similar to what it was last year and what they were the 4 seed last year. I think they're right there in the mix.
They're a weird team.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't get what happened to them, but I don't know if it's
6 seed last year.
6 seed. Okay.
Yep.
So they've fallen off, obviously, but yeah, it's a weird team. But Lonzo's been hurt for 4 years, it seemed like too. So
yeah, poor Lonzo.
Yeah, poor shame. Seriously.
Yeah,
seriously.
I don't think 9 or 10 ends up. I think it's going to stay how the rankings are. I think so. I think Atlanta will end up playing Milwaukee, and I think that Miami will end up playing Boston. But I really want Atlanta to play Boston.
Yeah, that's fair.
Are we not giving enough credit to all these Cleveland and Knicks fans? Are we giving no credit to this series, Cleveland at New York? That's actually should be a fun series, no?
I think it'll be a blast. I mean, a big factor obviously will be if Julius Randle is playing in that game, which I don't really have an update on that. So, but I think that'll be a really nice series. I think I talked a little bit last episode about I kind of like the Cavs and how they're set up. I think they play good defense. They control the pace of the game, and they have a guy that they can look to get them a bucket when they really need it. So, I think they can make a little bit of noise in this Eastern Conference.
I think that when you're looking at the first round of the East, every other series except for the Knicks Cavs series, it's the only one that's super watchable, I'd say. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good series, both entertaining teams to watch, both dogfight. I think that the 4-5 series a lot of times usually ends up being the best one, but I mean that's going to be a really good series to watch.
If it was up to me, I'd have Boston and Miami. I think that could be a fun series. This Philadelphia and Brooklyn
It's
series,
boring.
Man, I just don't see any way that Brooklyn win this game. I'd love it to happen. I can't see Brooklyn coming out and pulling a shocker out here. Would be hilarious. And if they do, make sure you tune into that very next podcast because
Yeah, I
Dylan and
won't be
I,
here.
yes, right. Dylan and I will be insufferable for Dolan. That Milwaukee and I believe Toronto will take it over Chicago. That Milwaukee Toronto series should be interesting. Toronto just don't have enough. They just don't have enough to take on Milwaukee. That Cleveland Knicks series should be fun, man. And that could be a team. Again, to all you fans out there that are thinking that we're skipping your squad over there in Cleveland and New York, those are two teams that could do something. Again, I don't think they got enough, but they could do something. It is shaping out for a couple good games here in the Eastern Conference Finals. Eastern Conference minus one of these games.
Yeah, for sure. And something that's pretty interesting about the Knicks is in this late season with Julius Randle out, they got to see, what guys can step up, what guys can do this and that. And last game, they had 3 guys score 30 or more points. Quick, they had 39. Toppin had 30 something, and Grimes had 30 something. And Grimes has come onto the scene, man. I mean, he probably starting, if you will, mid-season. And he was just a very infrequent 3 and D guy, and man, he's stepped up his game big time. And he started becoming a lot more aggressive even before Randall got hurt. So, he's going to be a big. I won't call it an addition because he's been there the whole time, but this added confidence and this added aggression, I think could pay big dividends for them. So, we've hit it a few times, but I'm excited for this series. I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks. I think it'll definitely be something worth tuning into.
Yeah, this Knicks team, it fun. Stay tuned for that summertime after all this is over because that Knicks team is going to be one to watch this summer if they add another piece there. They could be a whole hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
Before we move on to the West, let me hear it, boys. Eastern Conference Finals, as it stands right now, I know there's a lot of games to play. What does your heart tell you? What are you feeling? I'll tell you what I think first because you two have actual dogs in this fight. I believe Milwaukee, Boston, Eastern Conference Finals.
It's funny because I could sit here and say Philly and Milwaukee, and I don't know if my entire body agrees with that, but I always have kind of said in the back of my head, if my team stands a chance, which I think there is, there's a chance. They're a good team. I have to at least pick them to go semi-far. So I'm going to go Bucks and Sixers here.
I'll have to go Bucks Celtics.
You don't say.
Yeah, I really, really was so close to saying Cleveland Celtics to be different, but I just Bucks are too good.
Can't see anybody there upsetting Milwaukee in that side of the bracket. I just can't do it.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting now that Philly completely owns Boston to see how this postseason goes. Joel is Tatum's father.
Yeah, congrats.
They beat him 1 out of 4 times.
Pretty impressive.
But hell, what a fucking performance from Joel.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Half of the team's points, 52?
52, I believe.
52 points. Does that equal wins in the playoffs? We'll soon find out for sure.
Indeed, we will.
Phenomenal player, Joel Embiid. Really is. I don't say this to Dolan often because
Dolan sucks.
Fuck the 76ers. But Joel Embiid is such a phenomenal talent. Philadelphia has wasted him. Don't please, you will not want to miss when the 76ers get bounced from this playoffs because I will tell you all the reasons why it is not a surprise.
I will want to miss that actually.
Let's move on to the Western Conference playoff picture where it is significantly more going on here. We brought it up last week. Denver, Memphis, Sacramento, Phoenix. Those teams are pretty much set where they're at. I mean, if it's basketball. We could have a bunch of surprises here, but those teams are pretty much set where they're at. Let's just say that they stay 1 through 4 there. You then have 5 through 12. And I say 12 because Utah's sitting at 12, which they are currently losing 45-29 to the Thunder. This is actually a big game going on right now. Yeah, they're out of it. I'm putting them in out of respect, but they know that they're out of it. Let me start with the Clippers here at 5. This is going to be a lot to unpack here. Do you want to start from the bottom or you start from the top, actually?
Start from the top, man. You already called it out.
All right, done. All right, Clippers at 5 right here. They have home versus Portland and then at the Suns. Interesting. This Portland game's nothing. Portland don't give a shit. The Suns, though, that could be an interesting one because as of right now, that is the team that they would play in the first round of the playoffs. 44 wins for the Suns, 42 for the Clippers. They could catch them, but the only thing that would swap them 4 and 5. This game possibly doesn't matter. You think we see any? We definitely won't see any starters for the Clippers because that's not their MO. The Suns, though, they'll probably want to get their guys together. What do you guys think?
I'm going to go first on.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I'm going first. I'm going first.
I think Phoenix definitely are going to play their starters because they're going to want as many minutes with those guys as possible. And obviously Portland doesn't matter. And like you said, Clippers will probably end up resting their starters on that one. So I do think that series is going to be good if it stays that way. But we'll jump down to 6 real quick. Golden State is close to Clippers too, aren't they? Was it like they like a game back?
A game back. Yeah, which is going to be interesting because Golden State, and we'll get back to the Clippers in a second, Dylan, but Golden State have at the Kings and then at Portland. That is, like, they could be caught there. But if we stayed there with the Clippers, if they stayed right where they're at, they're looking at this last 2 games. Are you thinking they get 2 wins? You think they get 1 win? Clippers, and most important question, Dylan, do they have any actual starters, the Clippers?
So I think they do. Looking at that again, they're going to want to keep the 5 seed. So they're going to play the starters against the Suns and try to duke it out there. Just so Golden State doesn't catch them for that reason. Because like I said, Golden State, the Kings aren't really playing for anything. They're going to be kind of lackluster playing. And then Portland obviously is Portland. So I think that's with the Warriors. So I think that Clippers will be playing starters both those games.
Yeah, for sure. Which excludes Paul George, of course. Still.
Yeah, I want to see Paul George back.
How long is he? He's out for another week and a half, 2 weeks? We don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, still not a great update on that as we stand tonight.
That's awful. I mean, this is when this Clippers team actually bows out of the playoffs. Is this going to be the worst? Is this going to be one of the biggest letdowns in NBA history? This Clippers team.
I don't know if I'd go that far. And I think Kawhi and PG may still kind of stick it out for at least another year because we haven't really gotten. I mean, man, we've barely seen them together, which is such a shame. I mean, Kawhi was working his way back from the ACL. He finally got back and started playing, 38, 40 minutes with Paul George for a few games. Then George goes down for I don't know. I feel like their minds have to be so curious of what could be with this team. I think that they'll see another season through together. Obviously, this is all kind of hypothetical stuff. But I can't imagine they break this up just yet. So I wouldn't call it anything catastrophic like that. But there's a lot of talent. And when they started the season, I remember looking at this roster, Michael. I remember your pick for the championship, I believe. This team had serious depth, and they still do have quite a bit of depth. And they had a really good deadline, adding Eric Gordon, Bones Highland, Mason Plumlee. Really only Westbrook. Getting rid of. Sorry, geez, and Westbrook really only getting rid of
John Wall.
Yeah, thank you. Goodness gracious, I couldn't think of his name. Yeah, getting rid of John Wall. Good old John Wall.
Yeah.
Poor guy got sent to Houston.
He has a dance. Good for him. He made it. He has a dance.
Yeah, good for him. But yeah, the gist of it is I don't think I would call this anything catastrophic when they do inevitably get bounced. But man, there was so much potential in this team, and I guess there still is a little bit of potential. But
yeah, you don't got to tell me. If you guys don't know what Dolan's alluding to there is I made a very bold prediction at the very beginning of the season on the phone with Dylan, called Dolan probably right after that and was like, this is it. This is the year the Clippers finally put it together and they make a legit run at this thing. And then immediately, pretty much an hour later, because this was the very first tip-off opening day, an hour later it comes out Kawhi Leonard resting first game. I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? So let's move on. Dylan said it a little while ago, this Golden State team can absolutely catch. The Lakers can catch. There's a couple teams here that can catch each other. Now, obviously, we don't know. We got a couple games to play here, but Golden State at the Kings and then at Portland. Golden State have not proven to be good on the road since the All-Star break, and they have 2 road games here.
Began.
Yeah, very true. But it's been highlighted since this All-Star break that this team has been fucking struggling on the road here. They got 2 road games, Kings and Portland, probably 2 teams that don't care. The Kings are locked up where they're at. They're too busy celebrating this NBA championship now that they've gotten to the playoffs here. And good on them. Let's get going because I've got a let's go, Judy. They did that woman dirty the other week, man. Let's go, Judy. Let's go, Kings. We've got a $10 ticket out for the Kings to win it all. Let's fuck around, win that pizza money. Golden State, boys. You think Golden State truly? I mean, I think they're going to stay. The Lakers, to me, I'll give you my take. I think the Lakers are one to look at because if I know they lost to the Clippers last night, and if you watched that game, I watched half of it. The first half, it was all the Clippers, and I mean, it was pure domination by the Clippers. They were not very good at all. But if this Lakers team plays the Suns and then they play the Jazz, if they can win both those games, I think the Lakers are one to look at that they could jump up into that 6th seed from the 7th seed. I don't think if you're the Lakers and Golden State, you're looking at Sacramento. Are you nervous at all? If you're either one of those teams, Golden State or LA, you don't care about Sacramento.
No.
Go ahead, Dylan. I'll let you take this one.
I mean,
Dylan goes first.
I've seen for the Lakers and for Golden State, they both have fairly mentioned they want to play Sacramento because of travel time. They're all so close, so it would save time and energy with traveling. But I mean, I think that with both the teams, tenure, how long they've both been winning, at least the players in their team, I think the 7-6, both those teams win the first round against Memphis, and maybe not Memphis, but definitely the Kings.
Wow. Yeah, that's big time. I don't necessarily disagree. I mean, I think whoever draws the Kings in the first round at the time is kind of licking their chops. I think if you're going to be a lower seed in the conference and you look up and you get the Kings, you got to be pretty excited. Shout out to the Kings, man! What a season, and maybe just maybe they prove us wrong, and we shouldn't be shit talking them, but. This defense is so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty similar to what I said about the Hawks earlier. It's hard to just rely on outscoring teams. At some point, you got to lock up, and the Kings have shown basically no way of doing that so far. So I think if you're sitting in that region to play them in the first round, you got to be pretty excited, especially. I mean, Golden State. Honestly, Golden State might crush them.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's because again, this is no knock on the Kings at all, but I mean, you're looking at a Kings team who have a lot of guys who have never been in the playoffs, period. You got a couple guys that are deep on the bench that have been notable playoff players, like Malik Monk with the Lakers a couple seasons ago. But other than that, you don't really have a whole bunch of dogs on that team that have been there before. Let's move on to the Pelicans, though, man. Pelicans take on the Knicks at home, and then they're at Minnesota to end the season. The Pelicans, the Lakers, and Golden State are in this spot that if they win a game and these other 2 teams slip up, I mean that this changes drastically. Pelicans could jump all the way to 6 if they win these 2 games. That's insane. Are we putting this? Insane. Are we putting we put any stock in this Pelicans team going into these 2 games that into the playoffs?
If we get definitive news on Zion, I'll say loosely, I'll probably run over to FanDuel or DraftKings and sprinkle a little bit on championship. Not necessarily to say I think they're going to win.
I'll be right behind you.
Yeah, I can't say they're going to win, but I wouldn't mind sprinkling on a long shot on them. I think the talent is pretty impressive, and in this time that Zion's gone down, they've had guys step up. Hurt fucking Jones scored 3 points the other day. What the fuck is that? He's like their 6-point defensive guy. And Trey Murphy has emerged. I do not like UVA. And I watched some UVA. I got to say, I wasn't really that blown away. But this man has evolved to an incredible player. I mean, he was in the dunk contest, and he's arguably one of the better spot-up three-point shooters that we have in the game right now. Over the past 6 weeks, 7 weeks, you can make a case he's been the most consistent three-point shooter in that span. And when he drives the lane, he can dunk over anyone. So, they had guys that kind of found their way, found their role on this team with Zion's absence. So I'd be super intrigued to see him come back, trying to regain your chemistry in the postseason. It sounds like a disaster. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know. I think they could be a really interesting team to watch at the very least. The talent is there. I like the coaching staff. Willie Green's doing a pretty damn good job. Uh, and if they can get a generational talent back to start the postseason, they at least got to catch your eye a little bit. This team's got a lot of talent on there.
Hey, Dolan. I just want to say, Dolan, you said Trey Murphy dunk on anybody. He ain't dunking on me. So just want to make that very clear. Hey, Trey Murphy, friend of the podcast.
6 foot.
Let's go.
Friend of the show.
Podcast. Dylan is 6 foot with like an 8-inch vertical.
That's right. Come in this paint. You don't want to. No, I mean the Pelicans. It's so weird because they were like, what was it, like a month stretch? They fell off so hard, and then all of a sudden it just started clicking again. It's not like they got healthy or anything like that. It just literally just started clicking. And Brandon Ingram is one of the smoothest players to watch in the NBA, and his freaking playmaking has just been the last month has been ridiculous. I think
defense doesn't really matter for him. He's just going to make shots. Like he's either going to make it or he's not, and defense makes no difference. It's kind of incredible.
I was listening to something the other day. They were talking about. They said one thing that the Willie Green potentially did is that they stopped using CJ McCollum as the point guard and using Ingram as the playmaking point guard, and that seemed like that's freaking working. And had McCollum playing off ball like when you play with Lillard. So it's just it's been the recipe for sure. They've been a fun team the last month. Like I said, and all the random people just stepping up, hitting shots it's been good. I like the Pelicans, especially if Zion comes back. It's scary.
Yeah, I like what they're building over there.
Yeah. Like I said, the Pelicans take on the Knicks at home, and then they travel to Minnesota. That Knicks game does not matter. The Knicks will be resting. They can't get caught, and they can't catch Cleveland in the East. That Minnesota game, and we move on to that team now, that Minnesota game is actually massive because as of now,
literally,
New Orleans has a game over Minnesota, but this Minnesota team in Minnesota now, the Minnesota ends with the Spurs, and then they play the Pelicans to finish off the season. That is a huge game. Huge game. How are we feeling about this Minnesota team? And I want to say I need either one of y'all or tell me that I'm correct in this thinking. I've seen a lot of people say that if Minnesota get in, they could make a run. I have no fucking clue what anybody's talking about. I have no stock in this Minnesota team at all. What do you think, Dolan?
I really like McDaniels. I think he is going to be massive come playoff time because he's going to take on a number one option of whoever they face. And I think of pretty much anybody league wide, I would trust him amongst probably, top 5 perimeter defenders. So that's actually my biggest takeaway with this team is I think he can actually, nobody's going to stop the Kawhi Leonards and LeBrons and stuff like that. But if anybody can slow him down, I think it's McDaniels. I think he's an absolutely terrific defender, almost game-changing perimeter defender, which we don't really talk about perimeter defenders quite like that. Getting Cat back is significant, but what have we ever really seen from him in the postseason? I do think, and this is purely hypothetical opinion, Anthony Edwards feels like a guy that can go and make some noise in the playoffs by himself. Like he's got that dog that we refer to here and there. I could see Edwards kind of stepping up come postseason a bit and taking matters into his own hands while Cat kind of hides in the corner, the fetal position. That's the way I envision him come postseason. With all of that said, I don't see too much. I don't really love relying on Cat. I don't think that the Karl Anthony Towns, Rudy Gobert 4-5 is a good fit. I don't think there's enough here to make really too much noise, but I do really like what Edwards' potential coming into this postseason. I'll be very intrigued to see what he does in his, I believe, first postseason. And then Jaden McDaniels, like I said, is such a stud perimeter defender. I think he could definitely make games interesting if he can really start to bother whatever really good player he faces up against.
Dylan, how do you feel about this Minnesota team? And more importantly, how do you feel about trading Jaylen Brown over to this Minnesota team for Karl Anthony Towns this summer?
I don't hate it. I like Karl Anthony Towns. I trust in Brad. If that's what Brad wants. But I think you said, can either one of these teams make a run? I don't think so. I do think whoever, whether that be the Pelicans or Minnesota, if they match up against Denver, I do think either one of them could be an entertaining series when most of the time the 1-8 series isn't very entertaining. But I think either one of those would be good. I think Minnesota with the two big men down low against Jokic down low could be interesting to see. But neither one of them get out of the first round. But could be an entertaining series.
Fair enough.
I like this. I like this Pelicans team. I'll be right behind Dolan if they make it into the playoffs. I'll be right behind him, sprinkling just to get.
If Zion comes back, I take back what I said.
Let me talk about. Let's go to my favorite team in the league right now. OKC absolutely dismantling by 10, so that it's not as bad as it used to be. 55-45 right now. OKC over the Jazz. They're playing them tonight, and then they're at home to the Grizzlies to finish off the season. Feels like they could be very safe here if they get 2 wins. They win this game, close out against the Grizzlies, who have absolutely nothing to play for. This is a team that's taking up that final spot in the play-in. How do we feel? And then the main story here is Dallas, right? Like this. Let's. So we'll rope in OKC with this Dallas talk here. Dallas are home to Chicago and to the Spurs, and I'm gonna tell you something. Regardless of what happens to OKC, if you're Dallas and you can't beat at home the Spurs or Chicago, I know Chicago will be playing for something there, but if you can't beat either one of those teams, you don't belong in.
I ain't mad at that. Yeah, I mean, shit, do they belong in the first place?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's very true.
What a disappointment this has been, and it's crazy that they traded the depth, and Kyrie can just very easily walk. And I believe the rumor even came out that he is planning to at least explore free agency. So, yeah, deserving. I don't know what they deserve right now. It's become really interesting over the past 3 or 4ish months because like Luka, since he came into the league, has been the league's sweetheart. Like I never heard anybody say anything bad about him, and I'm pretty much I'm kind of a Luka fan. You know, I don't go crazy about him, but I do kind of cheer for Luka low key. But it's been really interesting. We're finally starting to see the criticism of Luka. Like, you know, is he a good leader? Is he a good teammate? You know, what kind of players would fit beside him? If you can't make Kyrie fit beside you, who is going to fit? And then he even had some really, really interesting comments about defense the other day. Basically, his gist of it was, hey, I've played pretty much 4 years straight, considering like international ball and, you know, postseason plus regular season. He's played 4 games straight, or 4 years straight, just kind of hinting at, I guess his legs are tired is what he's saying. So it's hard to go all out. Those are, I mean, that's Jabari Parker kind of comments. I don't know if you guys remember what I'm referring to, but when he got signed to Chicago, I don't remember exactly what he said, but it's something along the lines like, I don't get paid to play defense. I thought those are some crazy comments to make from your quote unquote leader, making excuses as to why he's so pitiful on defense and why he's basically not trying. That's incriminating stuff, dude. That was insane to hear.
Let me tell you, crazy quote. My initial reaction to when he said that, I was blown away because he's saying that in Dallas, Texas, they will tell you that they think they're the most American place in America.
It's America's team.
If I'm Dallas, I don't give a shit about who he's playing for internationally. You're playing for the Mavs. I don't care if you've been playing 3-4 years. I don't give a shit, especially if you're sitting there in Dallas. And I'm not knocking none of his international duties. Good for him for making it. But what a fucking cop out way of, I'm tired.
This is a crazy quote from a top, I mean, pretty much consensus top 5 player in the league. Like, no doubt about it. This is a crazy quote to me.
Is it to play devil's advocate here? I mean, if he had sat, we'd be like, oh, what a bitch for taking time off, load management. You know what I mean? Like, so he's probably in a lose-lose. You know what I mean? But I mean, just
keep it to yourself.
Don't lose to Charlotte twice, and it's probably we won't be talking about this.
Just whatever you do, don't say what he said out loud. I think is the key.
Keep it inside.
You can't be a leader and say things like that.
That's right. Dylan thought.
Go ahead. I could talk about that all day.
Yeah, I did the same. It blew my mind. Yeah, but I'm gonna go to Dylan real quick. Before I do that, I want to read my absolute favorite. I sent this to the boys earlier. It's one of the funniest things I'd seen. Mark Cuban was getting asked questions about the players, and he got asked about Kyrie Irving, and he said that Kyrie Irving was the Mavs' top summer priority. And then he was asked about Christian Wood, and he goes, "I'm not going to go through every individual player." That is pretty much Mark Cuban saying, "Yeah, we cannot let Kyrie walk for free after giving up every single thing." What an awful trade this is going to turn out to be, huh? Dylan, thoughts on the Mavs?
You know me, I do love Kyrie Irving, but I mean, yeah, it was a risk. I mean, everyone knows it's a risk. Like I said, it's similar to the almost Kawhi Leonard trade that happened to Toronto. It's like you kind of roll the dice and hope it works out, and it clearly has not worked out. And it was a gamble, and like Dolan mentioned, like it's hard to really point blame at anybody except for maybe the GM, Mark Cuban, an owner, for making the trade, but because they were what, the 6th seed before they made the trade. So, I mean, they were in a significantly better situation than they are now. But I mean, if Kyrie ends up staying and they end up trying this experiment out again, rolling it back next year and seeing, then maybe it could end up working out. Like Luka's still young. What is he, 24, 23, 24? So he still has plenty of time to kind of like grow in the game, which is kind of scary seeing where he's at now. If I had to bet money on it, and you both know I'm very good at betting,
Yeah, there he is.
Kyrie walks.
There he is.
So
Yeah, Kyrie's going. He's going to hang out with his buddy LeBron or KD. I mean, this Dallas thing has been wild. Again, don't lose to the Hornets twice, and you're probably not talking about it, right, Dolan? I mean, if you don't lose to the Hornets, those two,
they're in
absolutely.
it. Yeah.
They're
crazy.
they're tied for the 10th seed right now. Win one of those two, they're at least a game up. So massive losses first. And I mean, this is the Dennis Smith led Charlotte. This isn't even like Terry Rozier and Kelly Oubre.
Or
Like,
LaMelo.
Needs to be said. The
what's the
Dennis
guy's name?
Smith Jr.
From Kansas, Malo, blah, 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 blah.
Mikhailuk,
Yeah.
Detroit legend.
Yeah, Detroit legend.
That's right.
Kansas legend. So I mean,
Pause. I know that this is not a Detroit podcast, but I had a very close friend of mine when we traded for Svi Mikhailuk. He texted me and goes, "Hey, dude, Svi's actually a dog." The most unbelievable shit that was being sold to me as a Pistons fan is wild. We're in such a better spot. Let's get the fuck out of before we leave the Western Conference and the playoff picture. Let me hear it, boys. As of right now, this is going to change next week. We're going to tune in next week we're going to give our full playoff predictions once everything's set. Right now, what's your gut telling you? Western Conference Finals, who we got? Let me run through it real quick. You've got Denver in the first and in the 1 seed. You've got a possible matchup in the play-in tournament, which I'll get to in a minute. Denver in the 1 seed, Phoenix at 4, LA Clippers at 5, Sacramento at 3, Golden State at 6, Memphis at 2, playing the 7th seed. Who do we think is coming out of there?
Dylan, go ahead.
I've got to ride with Denver because I've been saying it for the last 2 months, but it looks like they're going to end up having to play Phoenix or the Warriors, or they end up being 6 seed. But I'll say Golden State stays at 6. I'll say Denver, Golden State in the Western Conference Finals.
I want to say Memphis and Golden State in the finals.
I would love nothing more than a Golden State and Pelicans Western Conference Finals. A lot needs to happen for that to happen. I don't think that's going to be the way it is. So give me Golden State and the Suns in the Western Conference Finals. Dylan and I have a dinner bet. If the Nuggets make it to the Western Conference Finals, I buy Dylan dinner. The moment the Nuggets get knocked out first round, Dylan has to buy me nice steak with all the fixings. Let's move on. End of season awards, boys. We're going to talk about MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved Player, Coach of the Year, and then Dylan wants to talk about Executive of the Year for some reason. Let's start with the MVP, though, boys. Dolan, well, I'm going to let you take this one first because you probably have the strongest argument here for who you want to win. MVP, Dolan, who should it be, and why should it be Jokic?
I'm gonna head out, fellas. This has been a really fun show. No, I mean, I think Joel kind of sealed the deal with that 52-point performance. I think it's all set. I mean, he's minus 600 on books right now. And I'm pretty comfortable leaning towards what the books are saying on this one because I'm trying not to let my bias kind of get in the way. We've talked about this a lot over the past 2 weeks, this being the third. So I'm willing to make this fairly quick. I think Joel's the MVP. I think it kind of got sneakily close at this time last week, but I think he pulled away. I'm pretty sure he locked it up with that Boston game.
I agree, Dylan. I've got Embiid as my MVP this year. I think he's going to win it. I think that they're going to look at recency bias with Jokic. He's won two of them already. They're just going to give it to Embiid. What do you think, Dylan? You think Embiid gets it? Or do you think we get a shocker with Giannis? It seems like do the bookies have Giannis second now? Dylan, what do you think is going to win? You think it's Embiid or you got somebody else?
I think it's got to be an Embiid.
Yeah.
I don't want it more than anything. I think Giannis should be in the discussion more, but I mean, I've listened to countless MVP debates the last week, and everyone has Giannis still at 3. I think he should be higher up. I think what he's doing is crazy. Best record in the league. But what Embiid is doing is crazy too. So I'll give it to Embiid.
Yeah. So we actually can't bet MVP in Virginia, to my knowledge. So I had to look this up on the actual internet. And supposedly Joel is minus 1,000 on FanDuel, and Antetokounmpo and Jokic are plus 1,200, both tied for second, third. So
that's interesting.
It seems pretty much locked up, and I'll definitely be pretty excited. It's something I really, really wanted last year. For whatever reason, I kind of care significantly less this year, but I'll still be really excited for Joel.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I just said a moment ago, I second Dylan and Dolan's thoughts here. I mean, I think he's pulled away here at the end. That 50-point game probably separated it. Giannis has been sitting a little bit, so and Jokic has won it twice. I think in the NBA there is a recency bias. That's just the way it is. We don't need to talk about much anymore. Joel Embiid, your league MVP. Does it equal rings? Oh,
Ask Jokic.
Let's talk about defensive player of the year. Ask Jokic. That's right. That's damn right. Defensive player of the year. Let me start with Dylan. Do you have a favorite for you for defensive player of the year here?
I'm torn between 2. I honestly probably go Jaren Jackson Jr. What is he averaging? 3 blocks or close to it? That's like the highest I can recall someone averaging per game. So I got to give it to Jaren.
Dolan, who you got?
I'm actually going to go Brook Lopez.
That was my second one. I was torn between those 2.
Let me give you mine. Brook fucking Lopez. Let me tell you why it's not Jaren Jackson Jr. Because the guy fouls out every fucking game. You cannot be the amount of times I've lost, and this is a personal for me. The amount of times I've lost Jaren Jackson bets because this guy's fouled out because he can't stop committing fouls the first 2 minutes of every single game. To be honest, though, without my bias, Brook Lopez, man, you look at the way this guy has transformed. When I got into the league, Brook Lopez was on the Magic, and he was like the next Dwight Howard down there. He was a back to the basket guy, and now you're seeing Brook Lopez. I don't know what he's shooting. Dolan might know. I don't know exactly what he shoots from 3 regularly, but when he's out there and he pulls up from 3, you're not yelling no. You know what I mean? I mean, you're feeling comfortable if he's open. Exactly. And this was not a guy when he came in. I just feel like he's changed his game so much since he came in, and he was looked at as one of those guys. I felt, back then when he was, talking about getting traded to Brooklyn at the time, that he just didn't play much defense. But now I think this guy is just. What he brings to this Milwaukee team is so impressive. And I know a lot of people are going to say, it's the best team, one of the better defensive teams in the league. But I just think the way that Brook has changed his game since coming into the league is a testament to the fact that it's not just it's not the team he's around. It's also this guy's he's just a baller, man. I like Brook Lopez, man. I feel like he doesn't get enough respect.
Yeah, I think he leads the league in contested shots, which is really interesting for a center to a certain extent because not only does he see the shots at the rim, but he also goes out to the perimeter, and he's really good at contesting a lot of those shots too, which is, that's why he's starting center averaging 28, 30 minutes or so, and he only averages 6 rebounds. It's because, defense is his first priority. So he gets a hand up in so many faces. And I think I'm such a low-key Brook Lopez stan. I think he's fucking phenomenal, man. His defense has been so impressive to me pretty much all year long. I think he's the defensive player of the year
here. You watch this Milwaukee team, and he's one of the guys that even if you're watching basketball, you're looking at Brook Lopez. He's just one of these guys you'd probably look over and just think, oh, he's just tall. But this guy is actually a fucking baller, and this isn't a surprise. I'm not saying this is a surprise for us, but I don't feel like Brook Lopez gets enough respect as he probably deserves, especially now as Defensive Player of the Year. I believe it's going to be Jaren Jackson. I think Jaren's going to win it because Memphis are the darlings of the NBA for 90% of the season until Ja Morant, pulling guns out. Not mad at you, dude. Go to strip clubs and have fun. I've been there. Dude, yeah, we are not mad at you at all. I don't know why that's such a big deal, but I guess it
We've
is.
all
But
pulled out guns at a
so
strip club. We've all done it.
every
Admit it.
every last one of us, dude. Yeah, that's right. So like we're not mad at them. Like go to strip club and have fun, man. But like I don't know. Up to like 90% of the season, Memphis was the darlings of the NBA. All this fun young team coming up. So I think it's going to be Jaren, but I think Brook Lopez, man, give that man his flowers. But let's move on to six man. Dolan, you have anybody in particular you like?
So this one I think is actually really interesting. I'll let Dylan kind of take the lead for the most part here, but I think Emmanuel quickly will win, but I think his stats are quite padded by his starts. I mean, this dude's gone nuts in the games that he started, which is to a certain extent kind of padded his stats a bit. And makes him look a little bit more intriguing than Brogdon, who I think has literally started 0 games. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dylan. I'm pretty sure Brogdon's truly started 0 games, whereas quickly started I don't actually know,
19.
maybe
He started
10,
19.
15, 20, 19. I mean, I bet he's averaging pretty close to 20 in those
22.
19 starts. Yeah, that inflates his Dylan came fucking crap.
Yeah, he's ready.
He's ready to
Dylan,
knock out anybody that's not saying Brogdon. So
that's right.
I think quickly wins. And I'm not mad at that, but I think you can make a damn good case for Brogdon, and I'll pass it off to Dylan and let him do that.
Let me jump in real quick, Dylan. I have Bobby Portis just to be different because I felt like Dolan was
I'm not
also
mad
going to
at
think
that.
it was
I'm not mad at
quickly. I like Bobby Portis. I think Bobby should be second. I don't think it should be quickly because I agree with Dolan. I think this is a big thing that people are missing out on. A lot of quickly start, a lot of his points, a lot of his averages are because he's started a couple of these games and he's done well. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But he's also gotten hot at the end. The two men who I feel have been the most consistent is Bobby Portis and the man who I think should win it, but the man that should definitely win it. Dylan, why is it Malcolm Brogdon?
So, I mean, you guys both kind of touched on it. I mean, Emmanuel quickly started 19 games, and I had the stat pulled up. Let's see if I can find it. And it was showing how his stats when he starts and when he comes off the bench, but I can't find it right now. But it was like, it wasn't even close. Like 19 starts is a lot of starts to win six man of the year. It's a lot of starts to win six man of the year. And I think six man, to me, this I could be wrong. I think it's a different. I think Emmanuel quickly isn't the six man. I think he's the backup point guard. I think that's different than being a six man. Bobby Portis and Malcolm.
What do you mean?
So I think that Emmanuel quickly, he's there to just back up the point guard. So if their point guard's not there, he's going to be in there. Malcolm Brogdon has come off the bench every single game. Peyton Pritchard has more starts than him. Sandhauser has more starts. Noah Vonleh has more starts than Malcolm Brogdon does. So
There's Mike Muscala.
yes, Muscala has more starts too.
Yeah,
You're saying that Brogdon's role is actually a legit.
It's a six man, exactly. And the same thing Bobby Portis. I think Bobby Portis deserves it more than quickly too.
Yeah,
they're both like once Dolan has the stats up, six man is bringing energy off the bench, and Emmanuel quickly brings energy. Doesn't like if you look at his numbers, they don't touch at least Malcolm Brogdon's numbers when he comes off the bench, and he's great when he starts. I watched him score like 40 points against the Celtics, but he started that game.
Yeah, he 39.
Yeah.
So coming off the bench, he's played 60 games off the bench. He averages 12.3 points, 3.7 rebounds, 2.9 assists.
Yeah. So exactly. So I think that it's and then if you look like Malcolm Brogdon, his role has been six man. Like they brought him here and they were like, "Hey, you're going to be the six man." I board is too. He's like, every single night. Malcolm Brogdon is bringing the energy off the bench. And I think to me, it's a no-brainer. When it comes to if you're just going to give it to the best player, like who's been doing it, man, quickly's been phenomenal. Like I said, I can't take it away. But if it was 10 games, it'd be one thing. But starting 19 games is to me too much. That's
19 games is a lot of
games.
games.
A quarter of the season. Math.
Yeah, I'm terrible at math. 19 games is a lot of games, man. And I'm right there with you, Dylan. I said Bobby Portis just to be different because I knew you were going to say Brogdon.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Brogdon should get it. But I don't understand how Emmanuel quickly has jumped either one of these guys, to be honest with you, because you're right. I never thought of it that way. You're spot on. Emmanuel's role is to be the backup point guard. Bobby Portis and Malcolm Brogdon are the instant offense. They're now these new for people who, if you know, they're now the new Jamal Crawford and Lou Williams. Those guys were religiously just JJ Barea is another good one. That's a good one. These are just guys that were consistently coming off the bench all the time as the six man role, and that's what Bobby Portis and I guess some people will come back to that and be like, well, you shouldn't need to just be the role of the six man, but and just come off the bench. But to your point, Dylan, He's started 19. That's a lot of games. That's a lot of games to be starting to win sixth man of the year. I like Bobby Portis. Dolan's got Quigley win. I wouldn't be surprised if Quigley win. It's because he's been he's been hot the past couple weeks and to end the season. But it should be Brogdon. Brogdon's the one that absolutely deserves. Has he won it before? Did he win it with the Pacers?
He's been a
He's been
full-time
a starter for most of his
That's
career.
right. Yeah. Interesting. All right, let's go over the rookie of the year. I'll let you two go, and then I'll make my I'll stamp my case here. Go ahead, Dolan.
This race reminds me a lot of the good Lord. I'm gonna bring up a guy that I can't stand, but this reminds me a lot of. I believe I even mentioned this in episode 1. Ben Simmons versus Donovan Mitchell in their rookie years, which was Ben Simmons' second year. So I know that was a big controversy itself, but Ben was just really, really good for the whole season from start to finish. Whereas Donovan started off, I'll say quote unquote slow. He's still doing okay, but then he exploded late, and he was so in your face to the last 2 or 3 months of the season. Whereas Ben was just consistent from day one. Paolo kind of reminds me of Ben in this scenario where he's just been, he's been doing it since the first game of the season. So it's hard to let the recency bias here take over and pass it over to a Jalen Williams or something like that, or whoever else you have in mind. I think Paolo deserves it. I hate Duke with every fiber of my being. I don't necessarily cheer for Duke guys even when they get to the NBA, but I don't necessarily hate them either. I recognize that I think he's pretty easily the rookie of the year, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Dolan. I hate to just agree because it makes for a boring podcast, but I don't think it's even much of a debate. It's got to be Banchero for sure.
It's going to be Banchero. I mean, Banchero is the one, to Dolan's point there, that he's been doing it since the initial tip off. But I do want to say, and this isn't a Jaden Ivey thing, it's not a Pistons thing. I think you've seen every single rookie hit a rookie wall this year, which it's not a knock on anybody, but at some point in time, you've seen these guys get stuck and have off moments. And that's why it's weird to say that if just one of them had stepped up for an extended period of time, this could have been a closer race. I really thought 15 games, Dolan, into the season, I thought Ben Math was going to be a fucking tear. And for some reason, he fell off. He was terrified to shoot, just sat in the corner the whole time. But I think as a Piston, Jaden Ivey, I think he's come in, and I fucking love this kid so much, man. His progression at the end of the season has been awesome. Sorry for all you non-Piston fans. I don't get much time to talk about it, so I'm going to do it here. He's not going to win it. He shouldn't win it either. I don't think so. I think it should be Banchero because he has from minute 1 to now. He's been playing. He's been a baller. His lulls have been 15-point games, but Magic fucking stink, man. So it just is what it is. Good on him. He's going to win this thing. I will be fucking hot if Ivy is not in the all rookie team because there's not 5 better rookies than Jaden Ivey. Let's move on. We don't got to sit and talk about it.
One thing, we're talking about rookies. We got to talk about Keegan Murray. That dude's been awesome in his role with the Kings.
100%.
I mean, shoot,
it's crazy.
Especially at home, man. He averages like 2 times as many threes in home games that he does away. Yeah, he's been a dream beside Sabonis. He's a perfect 4 to Sabonis's 5.
I think if you look, sorry, Mark. I think if you go look at because who did he pass? Donovan Mitchell for most threes by a rookie. Yes. And if you look at the other few names on that list, they're all like Damian Lillard's on that list, and those are all people who have the ball in their hands. This dude is just standing here catching, knocking down threes all day long. It's crazy.
Good defensive player as well. I think the top end of this draft. I mean, poor Jabari down in Houston, but I mean the top end of this draft, you're going to see a lot of studs, man. We'll see about Chet. If you guys haven't seen, he's put on some fucking muscle. You guys should see this shit, man. Jacked.
He's fucking jacked.
It's fucking it is fucking bulking season all season for this boy Chet, man. I'm not coming after him, but I think you got a lot of the league is in such good hands. I guess at some point we'll talk about this in-season tournament thing and the strength of the league, but it's just all. I'm not mad about. I'm mad that Cade didn't win it last year because that was a fucking joke. But I'm not mad about Ivy not winning it this year because it's pretty awesome to see all of these young guys coming in and been studs. Keegan Murray's been fucking awesome. Keegan Murray's been so awesome to watch, and he has been. He's been perfect sitting beside Sabonis. But I could literally talk about this rookie class for hours. I have a lot of love for it. I hope Ben Math comes good because he was fucking awesome for a while this season.
He's been stepping up lately.
He has.
He figured it back out.
Absolutely. I'm hoping long may that continue because I fucking love this kid, man. Let's go over to most improved player. I feel very strongly about this, but I'll go last. Dylan, you want to start? Dolan, do you want to start? Do you have anybody in mind?
Lauri Markkanen is going to win. I'm passing off to you guys. Talk about it.
That's a joke. Let me tell you why that's a joke, okay? It's right now, it feels like it's up to Lauri Markkanen and Jalen Brunson. And I could not disagree with that more because Markkanen and Brunson were bench players last year. And that's no disrespect to either one of them, but they weren't starters. Markkanen's been a surprise, and that is a definite. I understand why everybody is saying that Markkanen should win this thing. I think he should be second. We've said it so many times. Jalen Brunson has been fucking phenomenal. And I sat there and I said when he signed, I said, this guy's gonna fucking. I called Dolan so many times, sometimes at 1 a.m, just being like, what a dipshit move the Knicks did. This guy Jalen he's been awesome. He's not the most improved player. He's been a very good player, but he's not the most improved player. I get why Lauri Markkanen is up there. The man that should win it is Shea. And the reason why Shea should win this thing is because he's raised his points total by 7 points playing the exact same amount of minutes. That is most improved. The more minutes you get on the court with all these NBA players, you're gonna score more. You're gonna raise your field goal percentage, which is what Jalen and Markkanen have done. They've been trusted by their organizations to do so by getting them in, and they've repaid them. And good on them. There's nothing wrong with that. But Shea raising up his points total, raising up his field goal rate, keeping his assists with there's a lot more emphasis on Giddey this year as well. He's trying to figure it out, but he's kept his assist rate and he's kept his rebound rate at the exact same line as it was last year. Shea Gilgeous and this OKC Thunder team are he's the most improved player. I don't think it's close. I do think Markkanen is going to win it, and I don't understand why, because Shea is fifth. He should be fifth in the All-Star voting, and this was a team that was coming into this season as absolutely nothing. I think there's way more of an argument here for Shea as the Jazz have come back. I'm over here talking shit. The Jazz have come back at 69-64 for OKC. But I love this kid. There's definite some bias I have for this shit. I fucking love watching Shea play. I love his game. And there's a lot of people that call him a free throw merchant. Whatever. I mean, he puts buckets away. That's all I care about. But that's all that matters. I just think the way his minutes have stayed the same, his role has stayed the same, and he's raised his level. And to me, that is the most improved player. I love this kid. I hope he wins it. He won't. Markkanen's going to win it, and everyone's going to freak out. Shea, the real ones out here, no, dog.
So last year, Lauri Markkanen started 61 games. This year, 66. He averages 25 this year, averaged 14 last year, and minutes played only went up by 4 minutes per game. Played 30 minutes a game last year, 34 this year.
He's gone up by 4. His minutes have gone up by 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
4 minutes. But, I mean, and your point, Michael, I mean, honestly, I could see the 3 of them winning it. I think I like the idea of Markkanen or SGA getting it just because they're both All-Stars this year. And I think that's not that Jalen Brunson was right on the verge of being an All-Star, and he's been great.
He's a stud.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. I just think what Utah and what the Thunder, I mean, both people, I mean, everyone thought these two teams were definitely going to be in the lottery this year, and they both have been. Obviously, what the Thunder have done, they're in the play-in, and Utah was in the mix for the play-in up until 2 weeks ago. So it's like they were like, I mean, like, what, 6 games in, they were number 1 in the West, and it was like such a shock. But
it was awesome.
It was so sweet.
Again, this isn't a knock on Lauri at all. This is, like I said, I just think, and I think Lauri will win it. I think Lauri has done a very good job coming into. You're 100% right. This Jazz team, this OKC team, they were supposed to fucking stink. I thought Michael Willis thought this Knicks team was going to stink. It wasn't universally known that they were going to stink, but that's Markkanen and Shea have done such a good job of carrying their teams. I believe, Markkanen is well deserving of this. I just feel like this OKC team, And I'll get to Mark Denault in a minute, but I think this OKC team has been just fucking so underrated, especially Shea. His performance this year has been wild to watch, and I've loved it. So
What's really interesting about these two teams is like 2 weeks ago, OKC started to kind of attack this 10 spot, whereas the Jazz just, they started rolling out Clarkson, they started rolling out Markkinen, like they almost kind of played their way out of it. So it's just like I would have loved to have seen Laurie Markkinen trying to make a push right now for this playoff spot. And maybe they really are hurt. Who am I to say they're not actually hurt? But you know, odd timing for all of a sudden these guys miss basically the rest of the way. I mean, it seemed like they didn't want it. They kind of went the Pacers route. The Pacers were right there in the postseason. Then they started sitting Halliburton, Turner, pretty much everybody. They put Heald on the bench to play 20 minutes to play guys like Neesmith or Noora and stuff like that. So, they kind of look towards their future rather than the play in, which I sort of understand. But the gist of it is like both of these teams were in the same position pretty much 2 weeks ago, and they kind of took different routes. Whereas OKC, they had SGA actually ruled out for a huge game like a week ago, and then they're like, fuck that, we're actually going to play his ass, and they did, and I believe they won that game, and and here they are with a pretty damn good chance to make that 10 seed. The Jazz probably could have made just as good of a push for it, but they, in a sense, it felt like they elected not to.
yeah, they're pushing right now this OKC team to the brink. I mean, they're coming back on them. So I mean, good on the Jets. It's gonna be interesting coming down to the end. Let's go over Coach of the Year. I feel it's gonna be Mike Brown, right?
Yeah, it's Mike Brown.
Yeah, I don't think we'll find too much of a disagreement here. Mike Brown.
I have Mark Denault should be getting talked about more. I think this OKC team as a whole should be talked about more. It's gonna be Mike Brown. I mean, we're lighting the beam all day long in Sacramento. They haven't lit the beam this much ever. And 16 years, right? Judy's been there 17 seasons, watching no playoff basketball. Now she's finally watching some playoff ball. So shout out Judy, friend of the show. But it's going to be Mike Brown. You're going to get no arguments from anybody here. I'm going to keep pushing. I just think this OKC team, man. No Chet. The way that this team has gone is a good team. But good on Mike Brown. Good on Sacramento. Is this team going to do anything in the playoffs? Hope so, because we have a ticket out for them to win it all.
Yeah, but probably not.
Yeah,
probably not. I mean, most likely not. That's okay.
Coach of the Year is Mike Brown. So
yeah, this one's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Dylan, Executive of the Year. Who you got, dude? I'm just kidding. Fuck all that.
Brad Stevens.
Yeah, we don't give a shit who you have.
Dylan, you want to jump into this? Don't know if this gonna be a weekly segment or anything, but it's gonna be a little this or that thing. I presented a couple things last week. Dylan's gonna present them this week. Dolan and I are gonna debate ish on them. Start us off, Dylan.
All right. So let's see. I got a few here. I'm trying to figure out the ones I like the most. Let's do, because we touched on both these teams a little bit. Right now, you could choose to be a fan of one of these two teams. Would you rather be a fan of the Jazz or the Pacers?
The Pacers. I know. Let me start. The Pacers, because they have. How long do you know how long Miles is under contract for?
I don't actually.
So if he's under contract for a while, I feel if I remember correctly, and I could be dead wrong on this, I feel like, because Dylan and I have talked about Miles to a unnecessary extent on the phone, but Miles I think he's got a tradable contract, and I think it's around for a while, and that's a piece that people will definitely want. I think this Pacers team is a lot of fun. I fucking love Tyrese Halliburton. I think he's awesome to watch. I don't think the Jazz are legit. Kelly Olynyk, I think he can walk for free this summer. I don't think Jordan Clarkson's going to stay there. I don't really know what Lauri Markkinen is. Is this a one-off or not? There's more faith there with the with the Pacers than with this Utah team. There's a bit more depth there in Indiana as well. I'd rather be the Pacers, I feel. Dolan, did you find out how long that contract is or no?
I'm trying to see. So I'm looking at this. Might be his. No, that can't be his final year. Yeah, he will be an unrestricted free agent in 2025. So he's got one more season. Yeah. If I'm reading this correctly. Upcoming. Yeah, he has 2 years, $40 million left on his deal. So, yeah. So he's unrestricted after the 24-25 season. We actually would like to find some disagreements on these at some point. However, I won't disagree. I think Halliburton is the prize of these two teams. And I think, generally speaking, with young teams like this, I'm most times going to defer to whoever has the most desirable player, which I think is pretty easily Halliburton in this situation. I think Matherin's potential's through the roof. And in this period of time where they've quote unquote tanked, I guess, out of the playoffs, they've seemed to find some really interesting players. Jordan Nora was pretty decent on the Bucks whenever he got a shot, but he never really got a shot. He went over there. He's played some really good minutes. Aaron Nesmith, he was drafted by the Boston Celtics, never really got a shot. Went over there, got a
Scrub.
shot, played really well. Yeah. Andrew Nemhard was Gonzaga's point guard just last year. I think they drafted him with the 31st pick of this year's draft. When Halliburton sat, him and TJ McConnell held it down, and I think he's got a lot of potential. So I like the potential a lot more there. We know who Jordan Clarkson is. Apparently, we don't know who Laurie Markkinen is because this year blew my fucking mind. But
Yeah.
the all around personnel, I'm going to go Pacers. I do like what the Jazz have in Abache and Walker Kessler. I think Walker Kessler is going to be a huge piece for them for a long time and a very great defensive center. But it doesn't change the fact that Halliburton's the prize of these couple teams, and I really like the young talent they've found / developed in Indiana. And if they can hold on to Turner beyond this contract, then they have something pretty interesting brewing.
All right. Yeah, I picked those two teams because I thought they were in a very similar stage in their franchise right now. So that's why. Next one, you are Wembenyama. Do you want to get drafted by the Rockets or the Spurs?
That's a good one. Michael, I'm going to take this one. I'm going to go Spurs because if Greg Popovich can survive coaching this year, he ain't going anywhere. There's no way that they're going to take a guy, in this hypothetical situation. If they get the number one and they go Wembanyama, there's no way 70 whatever year old Popovich put up with this year to leave quickly. So you get to go be coached by arguably the best coach of all time, rather than Steven Silas and the absolute disaster Rockets.
Small side note. I've heard a lot of rumors, a few of them, of Nick Nurse to Houston this offseason, by the way.
Interesting. He can join James Harden apparently.
I'll let me jump in here, Dolan. I obviously Piston fan, hoping to get the number one overall pick, hoping not to drop 2, 3, 4, or 5. But for the sake of this conversation here, if I'm Victor Wembanyama and I like basketball and I like the NBA and I watch the NBA, there's no fucking way he has watched this Houston team and thought, yeah, I'm the missing piece there. There's no way anybody has watched Houston and thought, I want to be on that team. There's no way. So if it's for me, it's San Antonio. And if I'm going to give you one, I have not read this anywhere. This is just my thought process. If I'm the league, I am desperate for the Spurs to get the number one overall pick. I am prepping myself. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I think if that was a thing, then there's far too much money in this world. Somebody will get paid for it. They'll leak this fucking information. I do think that the league wants the Spurs to get Victor Wembanyama because I believe they will walk San Antonio over to Texas over to Austin, Texas, and they will be the Austin Spurs, and that'll be a way that they can get Vegas in, Seattle in, have 2 expansion teams, and relocate a city that would definitely have a face of an organization there in Victor Wembanyama. But for this argument, if I'm Victor, no fucking, do not send me to the fucking Rockets. That would be miserable. Give them James Harden. Give them Nick Nurse. I don't know if that does anything for them, but I do not want to go to Houston if I'm Victor.
It's so funny because I think I would pick Houston, a no-brainer to me. I think the talent is better there. And you guys keep talking about like them. To me, it's a culture, and you get rid of the coach, and it changes the culture. So it's like I know you guys like haven't said anything negative about Silas, but I mean, I think just resetting the culture will make a big difference. And if that's Nick Nurse, I don't know, but apparently, what I was listening to is Nick Nurse is really good at developing and growing the young talent. So
Where?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really seen him.
He developed Fred
Well, I don't
VanVleet
know.
and Pascal Siakam
Yeah, yeah,
and OG.
I guess that's.
Did he develop Pascal Siakam, or was that my
I
boy
think that
Casey?
I think that's fair. I mean, he definitely was around while these guys made their push into
For
what they
sure.
are now. It is. I was a little short sighted there to deny that initially, but yeah, he probably was the guy that
And he
is fairly responsible.
he also won a champion. I know this is very minor, but he won a championship in the G League. So they say that he's really good at dealing with the immaturity because of that too.
I think this Houston's had problems for a couple seasons now. There's always something for the past 3 years that have come out of Houston where it's been fucking weird. So I don't know. I don't know. I would not want to go to Houston right now. They definitely need somebody. If Nick Nurse is going to be that guy that Dylan's saying to change that culture over there, good on him. Best of luck to him, because I mean, you talk about the Bulls being one of the worst teams in the fucking league. You wouldn't want to be them. I don't know if I'd want to be. Green's solid. They got a fun when it's clicking. That team can be fun, but it's not clicked nearly as much as it should be this season. But anyway, go ahead, Dylan.
Alrighty, my next one we're gonna do kind of like an all-time thing. So you have the number one overall pick. The top two prospects are LeBron and Michael Jordan. This is no accolades,
Oh,
not who's better all time. Which basketball player do you want on your team right now? Today's NBA. I want to be clear with that. It's today's NBA.
I want LeBron James. It's not even when I was 18 years old, I said it's Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan's the greatest of all time. I know you said in today's NBA, there's no accolades behind it. Can't separate that, unfortunately. This is the greatest basketball player of all time. LeBron James is the greatest basketball player of all time. I want LeBron James on my team. LeBron James passes the ball. He could easily average a triple-double. Chooses not to. I say chooses not to, but you know what I mean. Like, there's a bit of banter in there, but not really. Give me LeBron James all day long.
give me Mike, dude. Can you
We
imagine what
disagreed.
Michael Jordan? Yeah. Can you imagine what Michael Jordan could score in today's NBA? Imagine
Spot
Michael
on.
Jordan going against the fucking Rockets tomorrow. Could you imagine? So yeah, I gotta take Michael here, dude. This I would absolutely love to see him in present day NBA.
Awesome. Alrighty. So I'm gonna do one more. I have a few here, so I'm gonna try to pick one. Hey, pick a number between 1 and 4, Michael.
3.
Nice. Alrighty. Today you have the option of building your franchise around either one of these two players right now. Both to me have very, very similar histories. Each have won championship. Each have a serious history of injuries. Would you rather have Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard?
Damn.
I would rather have Anthony Davis, but I'm not happy about it, if I'm honest. If you're getting, it's weird, right? Because you're looking at both of them. I don't want to talk too much because then Dolan will have nothing to say. But you're looking at Kawhi early days in San Antonio. I mean, this was the clout. I mean, this was the guy, man. Anthony Davis, so sitting over there in New Orleans, like
the claw on the brow.
this was a fucking dog, and it's just. For some reason, and maybe it's unfair, and then I'll let Dolan take over. I do think this is unfair, what I'm about to say. It feels like Anthony Davis's injuries are just from his body, and Kawhi's is just him sitting out. And I know Kawhi has an Achilles tear. It just feels like Kawhi is the face of load management, and that's why I'm going with Anthony Davis. Go ahead,
Okay,
Dolan.
that's fair. That's fair. I respect that. I'm gonna go Kawhi. We've seen him take a team and win a championship as a number one option. You might be able to say AD was the 1A of that team that they won on, but I wouldn't even necessarily go there. I'd still call him 1B.
I would too.
I've seen Kawhi take honestly not that great of a team. Past some really fucking good teams go win a championship.
Yeah, you have.
You have. I got to regain my composure. Oh my gosh, I hate you both so much. But yes, I don't feel like repeating myself.
Dolan's going Kawhi. Yeah, Dolan's going Kawhi. I'm going Anthony Davis. Those are two. That's a very good point. What Dolan said is that we've literally seen it. No banter. We've seen Kawhi take a team as a 1. I don't think Anthony Davis was the 1A for that Lakers team. He was phenomenal in the bubble. People are gonna say it's the bubble. It's a weird time. It's hard to say anything. I hate getting into that
No,
conversation.
I don't even talk about that shit,
I
man.
could care less.
Everybody dealt with
Yeah,
the same shit in the bubble.
exactly. I
Mm.
could care less. I'm just it's I've got Anthony Davis, but I fully see why you would want to go Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean, he averaged 30 and a half points on the way to a championship for Toronto. Crazy, crazy, man.
Cool. I mean, I have some more, but we'll save those for next time. So we're good.
Sweet. We're gonna dive now into the second ever Post Up Parlay. If you missed last week's, I think we had to scramble around because the boys weren't ready. We had to find something that meshed together. Dylan's Gobert boards hit. Dolan had Andrew Nembhard points over hit. I took Trey Young. Originally had Giddy, but we couldn't do all that in the same parlay. That would have hit. Hilariously, went Trey Young. Also the same night, I said it on the pod. You guys couldn't hear this, but we had to pause. We had to do some digging, and I literally said out loud, I think I'm gonna go Donovan Mitchell. And that was the night he blew up in points. And I said, no, I'm gonna go Trey Young. And Trey gave us like 10 fucking points. So the second ever post up parlay is going to be Kyrie Irving over points at 26.5.
Okay, I'm going to go Mikal Bridges over 27.5 points.
I'll go Jalen Green over 24 and a half points.
So all of those lines currently are minus 105 on DraftKings. If you parlay them all together, that gives you a plus 644 parlay. We're slightly strapped. FanDuel's not offering lines. However, DraftKings is. So that's our parlay. We got Jalen Green over 24.5, Mikal Bridges over 27.5, Kyrie Irving over 26.5 for the post up parlay.
Post up
number
parlay
2.
number 2.
Take it with the boys. If you hit and win, take those screenshots, send it over to at the Post Up Boys on Twitter. That's it for the show. Solid show, fellas.
Good
What's this,
stuff.
number 3?
Yeah.
Number 3, baby.
Yep. Let's
Love
go.
it. Fucked around, made the greatest show of all time. That's just the way it goes over here.
You're welcome.
Before we go, some quick. Yeah, you're right. You're welcome. Before we go, some quick thank you, some quick plugs. Thanks so much for everybody from listening to last episode. We are available we're available on Apple and Spotify. I was going to say everywhere, but we only do Apple and Spotify for right now. Possibly more later on if we can figure it out. We're still learning. Apple and Spotify, come check us out. Leave a review. Subscribe. That would be awesome. Come also follow us over on Twitter at the Post Up Boys. Solid time over there. Thank you so much to GoldBoys for helping us out. Dylan, where can the people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at DaleBond00.
Calling all Celtics fans. Go follow that boy. Dolan, everybody knows where to follow you at Ryan Props with
Yes,
his
with a Z.
Yes.
Douche.
Z. And you can follow me at Carefree Willis on Twitter. Appreciate everybody for listening. Thank you guys so much. Ooh.
I gotta say one thing.
Okay.
All
right.
I feel like after listening to the last episode, for all you listeners that are still here, after listening to the last episode, Michael and I give Dolan a lot of crap, but we want to make sure y'all know Dolan sucks. And I'm a big Falcons fan. And the year after the Falcons lost that Super Bowl, 6 months every day, this fool texted me memes. So everything we give him, he freaking deserves. Just wanted to let y'all know that.
Yeah,
These are accusations. I don't think we can buy into any of this. So there's zero proof. If Dylan wants to pull up his phone logs and show us, that's perfectly fine. Otherwise, he's talking out his ass right now, and these are accusations I won't stand for. I'm a great friend.
Go Celtics.
We have all known each other since Dylan and I's junior year, Dolan's senior year of high school. We've been close ever since. I told this on the first episode, but every year we get together quite often throughout the year, but definite once a year in some random point in August. Us three and another friend, shout out Patty, Nate McCullen. All four of us get together and go out. So we are all very tight. If you want to know any of we know everything about each other, truly. We're all very close to each other's families. If you guys want to know all of at Ryan Props' burner accounts, hit me up. I'll tell you which ones are his and which ones aren't his. I see his shady shit that he's doing out there on Twitter. Anyway, thanks so much, you all, for listening. Well, come check us out next week. We drop every single Friday. Thanks so much. Appreciate it, guys.
Later, guys. See y'all next
Don't
week.
really have burners.
See ya.